going, but there's one thing I got them. You never can the land of the home is free. What is that? We work hard for the man, I'm giving it all I can. My pride is what keeps me going, but there's one thing I got them. The American dream. What is that? The land of the home is free. What is that? Kill them when you hear me roar. Babylon.
Aloha, Chair Galataria and Dela Cruz. Aloha, committee members. Good morning. Aloha aina kako. The Ku'e Foundation submits this testimony in opposition to SB 1 on the general principle that it does not address the real issue of the theft of the Hawaiian nation and the extensive injuries that stem from that theft. We also find the bill is based on inaccurate and misleading presumptions, making it impossible to imagine how this could seriously provide any remedy. These flaws stem from a history that leaves out crucial information about who has title and jurisdiction. SB 1 does not mention the illegal processes used by the United States to capture the Hawaiian Islands. These important events negate any claims of authority by the U.S. to affect the governance of the Hawaiian Islands, and certainly not the further enslavement of its people and assets into several native corporations. The events and actions listed below prove the United States and its puppet government, the state of Hawaii, have no jurisdiction in Hawaii. Number one, the 1893 usurpation or overthrow of the lawful Hawaiian kingdom through acts of high treason and sedition by insurgents calling themselves the Committee of Safety, who set up an illegal provisional government for the Hawaiian kingdom. Number two, the 1893 successful protest led by Queen Liliuokalani, resulting in President Cleveland halting the process of U.S. annexation of Hawaii from the provisional government. Item 3, the 1893 findings of the Blount Report, resulting in U.S. President Cleveland's address to Congress admitting that the U.S. had shamefully and unlawfully committed an unauthorized act of war against a friendly nation. Item 4, the 1893 settlement between U.S. President Cleveland and Queen Liliuokalani that the President would facilitate the return of the Hawaiian Kingdom government to its proper lawful status. Item 5, the 1894 refusal by the insurgent traders to return the government of the Hawaiian Kingdom and their defiant response in self-proclaiming a fraudulent replacement government, the Republic of Hawaii. Item 6, the 1897 second failed attempt at annexation of Hawaii by the U.S., thwarted by protests and lobbying by the Queen and by the monster petition, the Ku'e petition, with signatures of 90% of the people of Hawaii in opposition to annexation. Item 7, the 1898 fraudulent, treatyless annexation of Hawaii through a joint resolution of Congress, executed in collision with the unlawful Republic of Hawaii. In essence, the U.S. used an illegal instrument, the joint resolution, to have the illegal Republic of Hawaii, quote, cede, unquote, its non-existent political authority and land titles to the U.S. In reality, the whole annexation transaction was a farce. Two thieves dividing up the stolen loot. Nothing was, quote, ceded, unquote, or transferred. Thus all political authority and title to the lands of the Hawaiian Islands to this day still reside with the lawful Hawaiian Kingdom government and its people. Item 8, the 1959 admission as a state was just another contrived pretense to conceal the fraud. It boils down to this: you cannot cede lands you do not own. You cannot transfer jurisdiction you do not have. Therefore, the state of Hawaii, having no lawful lands or jurisdiction, cannot go forward with this Native Hawaiian Corporation scheme as proposed by SB 1. To do so would be to violate numerous international laws, including that of genocide. Mahalo.
Leon Siu, Ke Okuni o Hawaii.
Aloha kako. I'm here today to give testimony opposing SB 1. SB 1 suffers from the same numerous flaws of the failed Akaka bill, SB 1 relies on 4 patently false premises. One, the insinuation that the nation that existed, the Hawaiian Kingdom, was an aboriginal, indigenous, native Hawaiian government. 2, the presumption that Hawaiians are indigenous peoples of the United States. 3, the exclusion of non-native Hawaiians whose ancestors were citizens and subjects of the Hawaiian Kingdom. 4, the claim that the U.S. and the state of Hawaii are the lawful successors of the Hawaiian Kingdom. The truth is, 1, the Hawaiian Kingdom was a fully operational, fully recognized, progressive, sovereign, independent, and neutral nation. Its body politic consisted of people from many different ethnicities and races, not just native Hawaiians. 2, Hawaiians have never been and are not today indigenous people of the United States. Hawaiians are indigenous to Hawaii, to Polynesia, and Moana Nui of Kiwa, Pacific. 3, non-Kanaka Maoli were also citizens and subjects of the Hawaiian Kingdom nation. They were injured by the loss of their nation just as the Kanaka Maoli were. Therefore, their descendants are heirs of the Hawaiian Kingdom as well and should not be left out. 4, the U.S. is an interloper, a usurper, a kidnapper, and occupier. It has no lawful jurisdiction in Hawaii. The state of Hawaii is the puppet government of the U.S., mostly benevolent but still a pirate. Now SB 1 seeks to form corporations, the modern civilized name for pirate. Collateralizing the lands and people as assets under several tiers of corporations will be an even greater atrocity than the current illegal situation. SB 1 is an outrageous attempt to further subjugate the Hawaiian people by making them plantation corporate slaves again. Mahalo nui.
Hallelujah. Pilipo Souza, Committee of Hawaiian Nationals.
Aloha kakaiaka, committee members and chairs. I'm Pilipo Souza. I am a Hawaiian national. By the grace of God being born to this Aina, and by the goodness of King Kamehameha III, thank you, Mahalo, Kauikiaole, bestowing upon the people a recognition that was the envy of the world. Earlier there was some references to the Akaka hearings I attended some 10 years ago in protest to refresh people's memory. No treaty of annexation. Okay? Remember that. My testimony, we of the Committee of Hawaiian Nationals oppose Senate Bill 1. We view it as an exercise in futility because it is inherently flawed, misleading, and based on false premises. The bill hinges on so-called ceded lands, but at no time did the Hawaiian Kingdom ever cede its lands to the United States. There was no treaty of annexation. As a result, there was no lawful territory of Hawaii, and therefore no lawful state of Hawaii, and thus no such thing as ceded lands. What we have are stolen lands. We cannot create a governing entity to oversee stolen land. This exercise of forming a Native Hawaiian corporation is entirely spurious and just another distraction, an excuse to delay the real solution to the illegal invasion, annexation, and the incorporation of the Hawaiian Islands into U.S. Senate Bill 1 is wrong, is the wrong solution for the problem. The proper remedy for kidnapping of a sovereign independent Hawaii is to free Hawaii return and reinstate the Hawaiian Kingdom and its people, not further enslave them into several levels of corporate entities, of a puppet government, of an illegal occupier. The Committee of Hawaiian Nationals wishes to remind you, elected officials of so-called State of Hawaii, that in fact and in law the Hawaiian Kingdom still exists and is rapidly approaching reactivation and restoration. We are so confident of this imminent return of the Hawaiian Kingdom that as a courtesy we invite you to make plans to vacate your positions as public servants in this illegal puppet government, the State of Hawaii, and consider serving under the lawful kingdom, Hawaiian Kingdom, upon its return. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Mahalo. Pono ke aloha. In opposition? Pono?
Aloha, my name is Pono ke aloha. I'd like to, I stand in opposition, but I also like to stand on the last three statements given by Kaiopua, by Leon Siu, and by Filippo Souza. Again, look at yourself, look inside yourselves. Are you guys Pono? There is no treaty of annexation. We never ceded over to the United States. Why keep on pushing these lies? You guys are responsible for genocide. Can you live with that? Can you look at your God? Do you have a God? How do you operate? If you are truly Pono to yourself, I would step down and say, hey, why am I continuing this genocide, this ethnocide, this social triage, this heva? Mahalo.
Mahalo. Henry Noah. Reinstated Hawaiian Kingdom.
Aloha.
Aloha.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate those who have won their office. I see some new faces. Last year I had the opportunity to make a presentation on these same issues that are being brought forward. Okay, and I did the presentation in front, I believe was the Hawaiian Committee, which is, I had a Hawaiian Caucus Committee for the House of Representatives, and I believe Mrs. Kidani? Is it Mrs.? I'm not sure.
Senator Kidani?
Senator Kidani, sorry. I believe she was in, sitting in on that address. And basically what I did was I presented to everybody that there has already been laws passed by the state that grants this type of activity that's in front of you. Many times this has been addressed. One in particular I'd like to bring to you in mind was back in 1993, and it basically stated in Act 359 that the state would assist and facilitate a process for the Hawaiian people to choose to have a nation of their own choosing. And that is yet to, even for the state to ignore that law, is what has placed us in the predicament that we're in today. Imagine, it dates back to 1993, and we keep going over the same things over and over and again. Okay, it just depends, as a Kanaka, how you view Hawaii should be governed. On one side, you should, as a Kanaka, view it that perhaps we should be controlled and continually be controlled by the United States government, which is why the essence of a Kaka bill was set into motion, and what I see this bill is now set into motion. Or we can fulfill the obligations that has been set forth, yeah, and actually supported by U.S. federal law. Okay? People tell me that Public Law 103-150 has no effect. Incredibly, I've been able to meet other heads of states from other countries who were in awe that we, the Kanaka people, have a document signed by the President of the United States, passed by U.S. Congress, admitting stealing our country, and yet what have we done about it? Instead of approach this problem, from what Pono had just addressed you, through the perspective of truth, we wouldn't be viewing this issue. You know, when you look into international law, there's very different types of mechanisms available to us, okay, under international law. And I think the current activity that's happening throughout the world should even encourage you as a Hawaiian to seriously look at how justice can be achieved. I mean, right now, as we speak today, an entire country has exploded against tyranny under the guises of democracy. Nobody's seen the Egyptians getting shot or getting tortured. They've perfected democracy. So the bottom line is, right, if we're going to be one democratic country, I think we should look at the democratic principles as applied to what its origin was all about. And the origin is based on natural law. That every human being has the right to freedom and liberty. And independence is a part of that. It actually is a part of international law, in the law of nations. Now, the situation that we face in Hawaii is quite unique, but not too unique that it's not happening throughout the world. What I do realize is that there is a people that exist in Hawaii that were once a part of a recognized independent sovereign nation. And this is the driving force that separates our community, or I would say our race. I don't think the rest of the community really cares, but our race does. Okay, so in closing, you know, like everything else, I think when a bill is introduced, I think it should have the opportunity to be circulated, all right, through the community so we can get input. Because recognition in one sense is a good thing. Recognition in another sense could be negative towards trying to achieve what is right. Having said all of this, okay, I just hope that every one of you senators would realize that there are people that are out here in the community who very carefully, deeply about what happens with this bill. And that, as Millie has said, I think it's time that we circulate this bill, okay? And you guys give the opportunity to us. You know, our Kaka bill came to Oahu. They were supposed to go to all the islands. And you know, in our opposition to our Kaka bill, we discovered that the bill was actually proposed in front of our community 5 different times. That was not true. And we were able to transmit that information to the senators, U.S. senators. I think this should be given the opportunity so that you would have an informed bill in front of you. You would be able to understand why a bill, I'm not necessarily meaning SB 1 now, but why a bill should be in front of Hawaii's senators to actually realize that there already are laws in place that give this issue an even more in-depth precision. I want to thank you all. Mahalo.
Hello, Henry. Honorable Ferguson. In opposition. Would anyone else want to? Honorable. Thank you.
Sorry, it's in the other room.
It's okay.
Hello, my honor. Hello, my.
Hello.
I'm Annalie Ferguson from the Big Island. I'm also the spokesperson. I'm also the spokesperson for Nakapuna Moko Keawe. I must say that I'm a little taken back by this hearing because you don't even have this bill available at the desk. So how to make an intelligent decision on what you're doing is very difficult. And so I'm very supportive of what Henry was talking about. You're not getting it out to anybody, so you're not going to get a very rounded view. While we're here, I'm going to address this bill, but there's also something that's very bugging me and that's very important because there is already existing law in the Sunshine Laws, and that's public notice. Okay? Public notice seems to happen only in the island where the event might be happening. For instance, do you guys know anything about the helicopters, military helicopters on Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea? You don't know because nobody took the time to inform you. And same thing like with me with Naue, my ohana is being dug up. I didn't know. Had I not just happened to be over there, I would have never known this was happening. Because notice, which is part of the Sunshine Law, the public has to be noticed. It does not mean one island at a time. Okay, that's just the thing. Okay, so regarding this bill, and call it Mike because I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to give you an address that Nakapuna Moko Keawe did back in 2003, and it's a very important one. And I'm very concerned about this because this action of recognizing the Hawaiian people in some sort of fashion, whether it be state or federal, is not new. In fact, I believe before Akaka bill, there was the Hawaiian recognition bill. Mr. Case did that. And I'm very concerned because there's a book out that many people don't know about, but it's called the Felix Cohen Federal Indian Laws, of which the first part of these laws start off with the Dawes Act. This is the roll call. Okay, I'm very concerned because this is the formula that has been employed and has been successfully employed to wipe out all the indigenous people in America, in the continental United States. So when I hear things like Kauinoa coming here and all this hoopla, it's like, gang, we have to pay attention. We have to pay attention. This is not news. You may not think it's important. I think it's extraordinarily important to look at the history. Okay? As a matter of fact, there's a movie out currently called I Left My Heart at Wounded Knee. Well, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. That speaks about this very thing. This is Senator Dawes and the Dawes list. So your role is a roll call. And so it makes me alarmed. And so on behalf of Nakapuna Moko Keawe, oh, one more thing first. I am very much in support of what Henry was saying. Henry has been one of the few that actually stuck to his guns and actually has tried to formulate something that can be utilized at some point as a functioning system. Anyway, getting back to what I was going to say. Nakapuna, in 2003, we actually published this in the paper, against the use of proxy voting, okay, in the formation of any government, whether it be by the state, OHA, DHHL, anybody, unless you have permission on every matter from every person. Okay, none of this proxy voting. The guy was on my list. He came to my meeting 5 years ago. I get to use his name. That's not correct. And we already have, I believe it's called a precedented paper because it was published so long ago and not opposed. And so I would like to say that I think it's extraordinarily important to get the community to know what you're talking about in the first place before you make any decisions, and open it up for greater public hearings, because you can hear there's a great diversity of stuff that we're talking about, even the pros and the cons. But we have to allow ourselves the opportunity to find the commonness of thought in a manner that does not put another chain on us. Thank you very much.
Would anyone else want to comment? And
did they sign up?
well, Poka, you were here. You came in late, so you already have testimony. But
Did they sign up?
yeah.
Excuse my back. Aloha kako. My name is Poka Lainui. I have submitted testimony on behalf of the Native Hawaiian Convention. And essentially what I'm saying is that I believe what the committee should do is take some time to look at what has already happened with regards to the specific question of the reformulation of the Hawaiian nation. And in my testimony, I present information, first of all, starting in 1991, Well, the legislature formulated an entity called the Sovereignty Advisory Commission to address this whole question of what do we do with Hawaiian sovereignty. At that time, 9 people were appointed to the commission. I was appointed, Bruce Kepler was appointed, and there were perhaps some others who had been appointed. We submitted a report to the legislature. 1993, I believe it was, the legislature then refashioned a commission called the Hawaiian Sovereignty Advisory Commission to ask what should the legislature do. At that time, there were 21, perhaps 22 people appointed to that commission. 4 of them identified by the legislature and the rest appointed by Governor John Waihee based on proposals or nominations submitted by various organizations. I had the good fortune of serving on that. Bruce Kepler and again many others served on that commission, including people from the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and the major Hawaiian organizations who have appeared here before you. As a result of that, what we essentially said was we cannot give you an answer. What we needed to do was go to the communities and ask the people in the community, because we are merely appointed by the legislature and by the governor. So we held hearings throughout the community, and it took probably over a year, maybe 2 years, and we identified every Native Hawaiian community we could. We even went up to America and held hearings up in America. Essentially the same issues being addressed that you folks are trying to address in this particular legislative session. And as a result, this is what came back from the community hearings. One, we cannot wait any longer because our kupuna were dying off after 100 years of, or since the overthrow. And secondly, they were objecting to the fact that you had one or another organization, entity, nation, family, or whatever you call it, representing that they were the king, the queen, the pu'uhonua, the regent, whatever it was, of the Hawaiian nation, and they were the spokespeople for the Hawaiian people. And essentially what people said was, we are sick and tired of that. What we want is a process by which we can elect our own representatives and have our representatives sit and discuss the whole ramification of, one, whether or not we were or were not an indigenous nation restricted to only an indigenous people, or were we an indigenous nation in that we were founded by our ancestors, but our nation included the people from many different nations. Were we a nationality, or were we merely a race of people? Secondly, what should our future be? Should we be integrated in the United States, or should we be an independent nation? And to address that based on our elected representatives elected by the Native Hawaiians. So, we came back to the legislature and we reported to the legislature in the Hawaiian Sovereignty Advisory Commission report. I have copies of some of these reports, and I can provide... I don't have time to read the whole copy. Well, anyway, we did submit the Sovereignty Advisory Commission report. We had 2 reports. We then suggested that what we do is hold an election. First, not a plebiscite, a vote on whether or not the Hawaiian people wanted to engage in the election of their own representatives to sit in a Hawaiian convention. And if the answer is yes, then let's go out and let's have an election of Native Hawaiians. We held that election process. The result was that 73% of those who participated said, yes, we do want to move in that stage. So we came back and we reformulated into the Hawaiian Sovereignty Elections Council, deciding who would be qualified, how would we split up, who representing what different areas, would we have just general elections, or were we going to have people run from their particular moku, etc., etc. Many people in this room had served in that elections or advising that elections council. Finally, we held our election. I was elected from Lualualei Valley, representing part of the Waianae Moku. Many others in this room had also been elected and had served on the Native Hawaiian Convention. The Native Hawaiian Convention was not able to complete our report. What we said was that we would be coming out to the Hawaiian people with two recommendations. One, a recommendation for an internal format, essentially like the Akaka process of integration. The other would be as an independent nation. And let the people decide based on the debates that would then be presented to the population. In the meantime, Akaka steps in, and so the Akaka bill takes front and center. Everybody now is looking at what the feds are doing. We sort of pull back and we say, let's not complicate the issue. Let's see what happens to the Akaka bill. We all found out that the Akaka bill died in December. It may be resurrected, but we are saying that the Native Hawaiian Convention must complete its work. And so we are asking this legislature to support the continuation of the Native Hawaiian Convention. We recognize that money is a problem right now. We ask that you, however, continue to support. We have been supported half by the state legislature, half by the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And I have been in contact with the members of the convention. We have elected 78 delegates. Many of them have died. We have replaced these delegates, but we need to complete our work in the process that had been designed by the Native Hawaiian people. And so what we are asking is that as you consider this bill, don't forget that history that had been started over the last 10, 15 years, and let us complete that work rather than tossing in another process of trying to formulate a response to the issues that had been raised very eloquently by especially the speakers who had been talking about the illegality of the overthrow, which I align myself with, and the response that we should take as a result of that illegality. There are certain other areas that I covered in my written testimony that I will not get into right now. Thank you very much for your time.